So, welcome everybody to the Alternative Investing Club. My name is Daniel Homland. Today is July 5th, 2024, and we have Jens Nielsen. Did I have that correct?
Yep.
He's going to be talking to us today about being a high performance coach and what it is to have high productivity. And so, we're a little bit of a different twist today in that every person who is an investor also needs to improve themselves. I find that actually, for me, to be honest, investing is one of the ways that I work on myself. I have to make sure that I am high performance, that I am networking, that I am managing, my time, that I'm increasing my understanding all the time. And productivity is a huge part of that. And so this is a really important topic. And Jens, I will turn it over to you. Welcome to the Alternative Investing Club.
Well, thank you, Daniel, and thanks for the invitation. I believe you maybe had me on your podcast a few years ago, and I think that's how we
Yeah,
initially knew each other.
it's like
So,
4 years ago, I think. Yeah. I'm
we,
looking to start it back up again sometime soon.
all right. Well, I'll be happy to be back on. So, thanks for the intro. Yes, I am. I'll talk a little bit about myself. First of all, a quick disclaimer. Informational purposes only. This is not an offer to invest or any financial advice. And these, as Daniel asked me, the information expressed are my own and not representative of the alternative investment club. So if there are any concerns, I will take full responsibility for it. A little bit about myself. As you can probably hear from my accent and also my name, I was not born in this country. I came here in 1996, so it's been 28 years this year. I mean, so I've lived more than half my life in this country. Started out in the East Coast in Maryland. I was in telecommunications. I moved into IT, so I was a database administrator. I was a PeopleSoft administrator. Like Rainier, my old colleague there, he's still in that field, I believe. Did that for 25 plus years. Started investing in real estate in 2016. So it's been, an 8-year journey so far because I wanted to get initially it was just to get passive income. It was to get away to maybe, not have to work for the rest of my life for somebody else. And that actually accelerated rather quickly. So in 2022, I think it's actually in 21. This is a mistake here. It's actually in 21 I retired, COVID hit and all these different things. And as we started working from home, I was like, man, I need to start changing my job. So in 21, there's a slight mistake in the slides here. I actually was able to leave my 27-year IT career to do this full time. So we've done 35 real estate deals since 2016. And that's way over 2,500 apartment units that we've purchased. We've sold probably 600 of those. And we've also purchased over 40,000 square feet of warehousing as well. So I'm a full-time real estate investor, and I'm also a certified high-performance coach. And this, you may think, where do these two things connect? Well, I realized when I was starting down this path of real estate investing, it wasn't so much the technical knowledge of investing. That stuff we can learn, books, videos, conferences, and stuff like that. But just our ability to take action, our ability to actually move outside of our comfort zone, that's what held me back. That's what I believe holds most people back. And when I hired my high performance coach, within a short period of time, I started to take massive action. I started to really changing my direction. I had a clear vision, some clear action steps, and I started moving towards that. So I was like, this is an amazing skill set to have, some amazing tools to help people. So therefore, I decided to become a high performance coach myself, and I've been that since 2020. So that's well over 4 years, and I think I do about 1,000 coaching calls every year. So I do quite a lot of calls. So actually not a year, about 500 a year. So it's been 1,500 to 2,000 calls so far since I started. So, all right. So today we're going to talk about productivity. What does productivity mean? How can we increase our productivity? What are some ways we can get better at that? And in the high performance model that we coach and teach, we start with clarity, we have energy, courage, productivity, and influence. If you master those 5 pillars of high performance, we tend to get the results we want in life. So obviously, this, if you have a 5-legged stool, which I don't know who has, but these different legs need to be of equal length in order to have a high performing life, not just a high achieving life. A lot of people are high achievers. You probably met them. They work their butts off, but they don't have balance. We need to be a high performer, so we need to create that balance. So productivity is not only based on what we do at work, in our side business, investing or whatever, also what we do at home with our families, with our health, with our communities. So we're going to talk about a few different things here, but productivity is based on your goals. We have to, before we start working on different tasks, we need to really think about our goals. But even stepping back from that a little bit, we need to think about our vision. So I know I'm going to talk about productivity today, but it wouldn't be a full conversation without a bit of without covering goals and vision before that. So what we mean, actually, first of all, eliminate distractions. Let's gain some focus. And I do see, oh yeah, okay. So yeah, if there's any questions, put them in the chat window. Yeah, so, put your phone away, close your email and so forth. Let's get a little bit of focus. As I mentioned, if you have a notepad, bring up your notepad, pen, because some of this is there's actually a lot of research that show if you write stuff down with a pen, it retains information better than maybe just sitting passively and listening, or making notes on your computer and so forth. So that being said, let's go into it a little bit. So Brian Tracy said, "A goal without a plan is only a dream." And this is where a lot of people that I have met, they have goals, they have big dreams, but nothing really comes of it. And until we actually start breaking down our vision into goals, into daily productivity, a lot of ideas just never, just goes to the grave with people. There's so many. I think somebody said a cemetery is the richest place in the world, for all these unfulfilled dreams that people went to their grave with. So we don't want to be that. We want to actually start planning and putting these dreams into action. All right. So vision or goals, a little bit of a chicken and eggs problem. What comes first? So if you look at this kind of funnel here, and I don't know if you guys have heard of, there's all kinds of different funnels we look at, but I really like this vision and this visual here, because we have to start with a vision. What is a vision? That is a 5 to 10 year focus, meaning in the next 5 to 10 year, I want to create this life for myself, or I want to build this business. And it's not so much, hey, I want, certain very specific goals. This is much more about what we want to feel, the experiences we want, how we want to give back, how we want to grow. That's what vision comes from. This is not a session around vision today as much, but just think about that. And if you haven't already created your vision for yourself, I highly encourage that you start with that vision. I'm going to have another slide that talks about that. And then projects that go, and actually, let me step back. My vision 10 years ago, actually 8 years ago, when I first started, this is like, I'm going to buy, a handful of fourplexes every year. And in 10 years, I'm going to be able to retire from my work. That was kind of my vision or my goal. Obviously, things started changing and moved much quicker than I initially had planned. But that was what I was thinking, because what was important to me was that, I grew up in Denmark. My family, I'm married and have an American wife, but any family, my Danish family is still back in Denmark. And you all know, a couple of weeks of vacation every year in this country, it's hard to travel back. So part of my vision was the ability to go back and spend time with my sister, other family members, nephews, nieces, and that sort of stuff. All right. So we go from a 10, that focus into yearly plans. to a monthly focus, to a weekly calendar, to daily actions. And I think most people get stuck on, oh yeah, I want to achieve something the next couple of years. They never break that down into a monthly focus, a weekly calendar, and daily actions. So we're going to talk about that today. Let's start with the vision. Let's talk about, I mentioned a little bit about my vision, a little bit about why it was so important to me to find ways to exit my W-2 job. So if we, as we're thinking 5+ years into the future, excuse me, think about the experiences you want. Excuse me, maybe that's travel. Experience goes, maybe it's a new house in an amazing location. Maybe it's that brand new Tesla Cybertruck that you've been dreaming of. Maybe it's some travels to exotic destinations. Whatever it is has to be true to you, but it has to be something that connects deeply to your emotions. So think about those experiences that you want. How do you want a need to grow? I think the old saying is, what got you here is not going to get you to where you need to be. So quite often we have dreams, we have ideas, we have visions, but we forget to think about the internal growth that we have to um, dedicate time to. And most people they run into this problem. They don't really know how they need to grow. They don't really know how they can become the person they need to become in order to achieve their goals. And then suddenly they start thinking, well, maybe it wasn't so important. I'm just going to stick with what I know, my current job, my current situation. No, we need to think about what it is, the growth that's required in order to get to where we want to be. And how do we want to contribute? Why do I have contribution in here? Well, the funny thing and interesting thing is once we have, the ability and the time and the financial freedom to travel, to buy stuff, and we've worked on ourselves, then suddenly those things stop to become motivators for us. Then we have to start thinking about that contribution. What does it mean to contribute to? That could be family, community, country, whatever is important to you. How do you want to contribute? And why that's important is that the more time we spend in the contribution role, the better or the more motivated we will be to continue that. You've heard of you know, um, Bill Gates. I think his goal is to donate all his money, right? I mean, he made billions and billions of dollars. Now he wants to get rid of it all, and that is his motivator now. He spent all these years building Microsoft and become incredibly wealthy. Now his motivation is to get rid of all that money in ways that helps in many different causes. So my challenge to you is to write down, on your in your notepad, there's like, what experiences do you want? How do you want a need to grow? How do you want to contribute? And if we have, if people are up for it, we can spend a couple of minutes. If anybody has some ideas, I would love to hear from a couple of people if they can unmute and just talk a little bit about this, because I think more interactions we have, the more interesting it becomes here. So does anybody want to just share a little bit about their vision, some stuff that they feel comfortable sharing with?
About 4 years ago, one of my goals, and it's kind of still my continuing goal, although it's hard to track, is just to impact 1,000 people to help them take control of their own finances through this club. And I had that down as one of my goals. Um, I know it's hard to measure that, and it's hard to measure what impact is. It might just be getting started, but I've had that on my list for a long time.
I love it, Daniel. Why is that important to you?
Honestly, it probably goes back to my childhood and the impact my parents had on me. And finance was something we always talked about. And I realized that a lot of people in the world, their lives are very negatively impacted because they don't have a good understanding of finance or how to align finance with their own values or how to live their life and control their finances in a balanced way. There were so many either negative emotions or negative experiences associated with money where it really could be used as a tool to help people live better lives.
I mean, congratulations. I mean, most people, they don't never learn that stuff, right? And they go through life as
It,
paycheck to paycheck or whatever it may be, right?
and I admit too that the more I traveled down the path too, the more I realized there's always another level to understanding, and there's always another level to growth. And then some of my goal became my own growth and my own family's growth because I felt like I was on a journey and I wanted to continue on it.
Love it. Yeah. So you're definitely focusing on that contribution, right? And what you've done is amazing. And having doing this every week, that takes a lot of effort and planning and everything else. So congratulations on that. Anybody else that wanna just share real quick, some part of your vision, some stuff, like either experiences or contributions, a way they need to grow, or you want to grow or have to grow? Be shy. Bill.
I'll share. Yeah, Jens, good to see you. So one of my, I guess, goals is to be able to kind of step back from my day-to-day operations, my business, and definitely be off my W-2. I have a business and I work for a W-2 job. By the age I'm 55, I'm 47 now. So right now I do Airbnb investing, and I'm trying to start where we're doing one property a year from now on. And right now we have one property. We're about to get a second one, hopefully, and working on that. But it took a couple of years to get that learning curve figured out. But now we've got that learning curve and systems and setups and things. So hopefully it'll keep continuing. But definitely enjoy the idea of the vision. I think that's very important to keep that front and center, let that motivate you. So thanks. I'll
Yeah.
pass.
And Bill, I didn't recognize you for a moment, but your beard there looks great. Why is it again, and why is this important? Because if we don't connect it to the why, then we may not have the motivation to push through challenges time. So why is this important to you, Bill?
I've got young kids, and probably about 7 years, they're going to be about 9 to 10 years old, and I want to be able to go spend time with them, go camping with them, go travel different countries, go do things. And, if it works out the way I want it to, I'll be able to have passive investing and have my properties managed. And so I'll have to manage the managers, but other than that, it won't be day to day fire and putting out that kind of thing. So I don't know where that raised hand comes from, but
I think Zoom recognizes your hand somehow.
Yeah, it's
okay,
it's looking at your thumb being up on your shoulder
that is
right now.
weird. Okay, AI, there you go. But yeah, and I've been working a long time, and I'm kind of done with it. So, but I enjoy this, and also I'm in recovery, and I want to contribute a lot to recovery community and that kind of work. So, thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Anita, I think you're unmuted. Do you want to share a bit?
Sure, since you called me out. Um, so my goal is to start a business. I'm in the process of doing that. I think prior to that, my goal was buying real estate as most people on this line was, and then I got bored of that. So then I wanted to invest passively. And then I realized, okay, after you do that, it's like you just sit back and kind of wait. And so I got bored. And so then I I wanted to leave my job, which I achieved. Um, Not necessarily at 55, but at 59 and a half or 59, I was able to do that. And then start my business, which involves helping entities like military or educational systems find place their tenants when they send them out for either work or whether they send them out for a contract or for schooling or something like that. So in my job, I used to do supply chain where I would negotiate contracts. So it helps me to negotiate contracts with the hotels for blocks of rooms and to get the contracts with people like the military and then place them in, place them where they need to go. So that's been kind of fun.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Really appreciate that.
Sure.
All right. I'm going to move on. So we went to this slide, like talking a little bit about sharing your vision. We did that. Thank you for everybody who did that. So strategic planning, that's a necessity. We need to break our vision into action. So who has set goals for you in the past, right? And was it your boss, your parents, your spouse, somebody else? And one of the biggest things that I have seen, and I've noticed too, if we don't have a clear set of goals and a plan, everybody else's goals and priority becomes your goals and priorities, right? I used to be, and Rainy may, I don't know, connect with this. I would kind of roll into the office in the morning and then start thinking about what am I supposed to do today, right? I start checking my email, start looking around to figure out what I should work on next. So it'd always be is responding to whatever maybe was a quote unquote emergency at that point, or what my boss wanted me to do, or a coworker. So we need to get ahead of everybody else by planning. And this has really probably been one of my biggest challenges, that idea of how do I plan? How do I become productive? Try different things, different fancy journals and all these different tools. Everything works differently for people. And I'm getting into it more, but really the most effective way for me is just basically sitting down every morning and going through a planning exercise. It's just as simple as a piece of paper here, breaking down hour by hour what I'm gonna work on. And we'll talk more about that. That has worked really well for me. But the key piece here, if we don't set the time aside to plan, other people's goals become your goals. You will become unproductive, and in the end of the day, running to try to catch up or whatever that looks like, right? So that's what we're going to talk about. That's the key point, is stay ahead of everybody else by planning a little bit. So here's some areas to consider when planning. And here I'm not talking about a daily planner. I'm talking about your full year. We're going to talk about what a year may look like, even what 5 years may look like, in order to move towards your goals. So again, as high performers, we want to make sure that we plan in different areas of our life, not just work, not just a side business. So as we talked about earlier, in order to meet your vision, you need to have some personal growth. So that could be physical. Maybe you have goals around how you work out, your health, your wealth, physical well-being on that side. Also, your mental well-being. What does that look like? What is your thought patterns like? Do you have positive internal chatter? Do you have negative? Is it neutral? What is that dialogue you have? And if that dialogue doesn't serve you, you may need to consider ways of changing that. What's your emotional balance? Do you have a positive, a negative outlook on life? And what's your spiritual connection? If you're a religious person, do you dedicate time to that spiritual connection to help you get through that? So think about that. Think about these 4 different areas of your life. What's important to you here? And are you dedicated time for these areas? Relationships, most important thing in life. If you guys want a little aside here, if you heard about the study, I think it's called it's about the Harvard students from the 1930s up until the longest studies of people. They interviewed them from these men back then in the 30s entering Harvard, and then followed them through their life, and now they're kids and grandkids. And then they also followed some inner city Boston kids that had different socioeconomic status. And they just wrote a book about it about a year ago, and it's called The Good Life. And the biggest predictor of well-being and happiness are the relationships you have in life, bar none. Doesn't matter how much money you make, how many fancy things you have. Relationships is the most important thing to predict the level of happiness. And we all know after COVID, there's an epic, or even starting before, but COVID really made it bad. Is that this epidemic of loneliness and isolation and things like that, especially now we work from home. I work from home too, right? And if I'm not incredibly intentional around it, I could just, go days without actually trying to reach out and meet people. Of course, my wife comes home every day, but we have to be intentional about building these relationships. It's so incredibly important. So who actually sets goals around having interactions with other people? I don't think a lot of people do, but this could be a key part of any kind of planning we do. So what is our household relationships? So me and my wife have this thing every month. We take turns planning an event that is a secret. So, we may say, all right, keep Saturday afternoon open. We're going to do something. And then we do something fun, something new together that the other person we have to take turns planning. That adds to we've been married for 20 plus years. So that adds a little fun to the relationship and it's a little bit of a challenge, right? So that's the way we keep our relationship interesting that way. Friends, who are the friends you have in your life? Do you have one friend that you can call up in a time of need? If you don't, or do you have that's something to think about. Do you have some friends that you haven't really spoken to for a long time? I know we move around. This is the third state that I have. I live in New Mexico now, by the way. For third state in this country I've lived in, and it's easy to lose connection with people. Who's your team, right? Who's your work team, your business team? Do you keep in touch and serve them? And then your community, what does community involvement look like to you? So that also needs to be on your planning. And then finally, your business or your career. What is your ideal career? What is your ideal business? Anita said she was able to leave her long-time job to go in and run her own business. What does that look like? How much by when, right? When do you want to retire? I mean, Bill wants to retire in his mid-50s is his goal, right? So I'm sure all of you guys have either long-term career goals, business goals, a combination, whatever that is. Make sure that you have specific plans around that. And it has to be connected to contribution. Because if it's just, oh, I want to make $1 million, that's great. But if there isn't a deeper meaning behind it, we're going to lose motivation. So make sure you write these things down or take a screenshot of this because those are the areas that needs to be part of our annual plan. The next step you may want to do is then go down and create a 5-year plan based on your vision, right? So in these different areas, right? So let's remember, if we go back here, personal growth, relationship, and business career. If those are the 3 areas that I recommend planning in, make sure you then start writing something down similar to this. Say, what is the personal growth I want to experience this year? What is the big relationship things I want to work on this year? What are the professional growth I want to have this year? So this is actually, I didn't put, this is my plan, right? I have obviously the 2 years filled in here, and there's some stuff here that probably doesn't make sense to you guys, but this is kind of what I have thought of when I started this plan. And it was very interesting if I kind of pull up my thing I have on my wall here, as I look through them, these are reminders to me. It's like, oh man, I said I was going to do this year. I haven't done it yet. Let me get a plan, right? Let me plan these things. So it has really helped me stay on track with my travels, my business growth, all these other things. So create a similar plan for yourself to this, because that's going to be incredibly valuable. So again, I want to set aside maybe just a few minutes for everybody I want everybody to write down a couple of goals in these different areas. So in personal growth, in relationships, and business career and business/career. Write down, we are halfway through this year, a little over halfway through this year. Just think about some area of your personal growth you want to achieve for the rest of the year, something that's important in your relationship, and something that's important in your business and career. So I'll give you guys just a couple of minutes, just write something down, then we'll have a little bit of a discussion around that. So give everybody a few minutes here. Give everybody another minute. Okay, let's share a little bit here. Does somebody who has the courage to just share one personal goal, business goal, connection goal that they have, or relationship goal that they have for the rest of this year? Daniel?
Sure. One of the goals that I had, this is a short-term goal just over the summer, but my wife homeschools one of our kids twice a week, and he's a special needs kid, and we're struggling with how he's falling behind school, and that stress has definitely stressed my wife out. And so over the summer, I am learning to take on the responsibilities of working with my kids on their reading and writing and arithmetic, and just doing a trying to balance, having a fun summer, but also doing a little bit of writing, a little bit of reading, a little bit of math every day, and put that into a curriculum where I can see what their current progress is and help them move on. So that's a short-term goal I've had this summer.
All right, Daniel. Well, thank you for your vulnerability around that, and that's a lot of. I'm sure that's a challenge to figure out how to go back to teaching kids, right? It's been a while since we were through that. So,
Yeah.
do you have it? Do you have it broken down? Do you know how many hours a week you're going to spend on this? Do you have it kind of broken down into that curriculum week over week?
Well, so not necessarily on a week over week basis. I'm more on a daily basis. I write a fun science or history fact on our chalkboard, and I have them copy it at 9 a.m. every morning, so that they're working on their handwriting. And then I found a website called ixl.com, which will basically do an assessment of students as to what their current grade level is and what their skills are. And then I've had them both do those assessments, and we're working on that. And then I have them read for a half hour each day.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations. I love it.
And then enjoy the rest of the day for summer.
Anybody else want to share either a personal goal, business goal, relationship goal that they have for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I can
Glenn.
go ahead. I put down replace my pre-tax income passively with low risk investments. I think the relationship side I'm already doing pretty well. So that box is checked.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's obviously I don't know anything about you or how far you are along in this. Are you do you feel like you have actionable steps for the next 6 months that's going to get you there, or is it just more of a dream? Or I wish I can get there by the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step backward, right? As it is in this business. So I was 3 steps forward, and now I'm a couple steps backward. So it's just that's the way it works.
You have a, what do you think you need to do in order to maybe get more tactical around it, or break it down into more detail? Is there some ideas you have about getting it from, to make it a high chance of success by the end of the year?
I think for me, it's finding the right deals, right sponsors, and then not overcommitting to any one sponsor.
Right on. So researching sponsors would be one of the next steps for you, or ones you have experience with already, right? Very good. Glenn, did I see you raise your hand too?
I did. So I guess for me, so 15 years ago, I sat down on a spreadsheet and made my first real formalized, like, how do I get to retirement plan? And just sort of took stock of effectively building um, a net worth, assets and liabilities, and kind of balance sheet it, and then say, okay, here's where I am today. Let's assume some sort of moderate projection, when I was 30, and what happens when I hit 70, and so forth. So I've used that every year, and I have a task at the end of every year, and sort of score myself as to where I am versus where I had originally, projected, and I haven't ever touched the original projections, in the extrapolation. So that's been great, and it helps keep me honest, and gives me some of my list of what I need to work on for the following year if I need to make adjustments or whatever. My second half topic for this year is that that thing I've been using has been a framework for a conceptual notion of what retirement is, whether that's the FU number for the company, or whatever it is, but it doesn't really say how I'm going to spend my time, or how I'm going to take my retirement nest egg, and how am I going to how am I actually going to manage through it? And so that particular topic is something I want to really wrap my arms around. The second half is thinking about what distributions look like, and what's tax efficient, and what's going to be a reinvestment thesis, and what are my assumptions around asset preservation versus growth versus timing of retirement ages, and when all that stuff. So I'm trying to lay out an actual kind of documented path or framework for myself that says, when I hit this age, this is what I'm going to switch to this. When I hit this age, I'm going to switch to this, and so on and so on.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing. So obviously you're somebody who likes to plan and do logical planning, and here's the numbers and stuff. What I would recommend for you is also think about, what does retirement mean, right? What is purpose, meaning, and happiness in retirement? Because I think a lot of people, they look at this, oh, I can quit my job, and then they think, happiness is there and joy is there, without intentionality, without a plan around what that looks like. A lot of people, they find themselves lost, right? They don't know what to do by the day they walk away from their job. So what does purpose look like to you after the day you're able to walk away? And I think dedicating some time to think about that is going to be important.
Absolutely. I think I have an
All
idea,
right.
but it refines for sure.
All right, thanks for sharing. All right, I'm going to be respectful of everybody's time. I'm going to move on a little bit. So, okay, this one I wanted to share. So basically, we got to organize our goals into projects. What are the different projects that we need to work on through the rest of the year, and also eliminate distractions. And I've done some time audits myself, and sometimes it's quite revealing to say, oh my God, I spent so much time on this low value task that I should hire a VA, or I should outsource, or I should stop doing at all, right? If we look at the end, because we all have the same number of days, or the hours in the day, how do we use it? And that's, we have to be incredibly strategic around that. So let's say, so the next thing is, break this down into a yearly focus. So what are the different projects that are important to you? So so this is me and my wife, what are the things we want to do through this year? This is the conference I run. What are the things that are important here? My coaching, my real estate, and my travel. So what are the different things? And again, having this on a piece of paper in front of you so you can look at it on a regular basis is much more important than having it written on a Google Doc and sitting in your folder and you only pull it up irregularly. So have something that's in front of you so you can start putting these things in, because we all know half the year has passed. What didn't we do that we had planned on doing that we only have 6 months to do if we want to accomplish by the end of the year? So break it down into something similar to this. All right. So set a time, every week to work on your goals. As I mentioned, right, between sleeping and health and family and work, suddenly there isn't a lot of time left in the week. So we need to obviously get into breaking it down into goals. And as I mentioned, a couple of things. So one thing I do use, this is kind of just a snapshot of my calendar a few years ago whenever I created this one. So here I have stuff that are blocked into my calendar that I know, hey, working out 3 days a week, right? Anything in yellow, those are my coaching calls. Blue stuff is real estate related meetings. So I already know this is already kind of planned. No, there's nothing there. Now, the next thing I do add then, as I mentioned before, is I actually just go through, and this is funny, this is the thing that worked the best for me. Every morning, even though I have it in my calendar, every morning I will sit down and I will think about what are the 3 things I need to achieve today, no matter what. And I put them on there and I start looking, I add all the things that I already committed to, and I say, okay, what can I add in the times that I have? And the reason why I think that's super important is you probably all got caught in this, right? We have a meeting and done at 10 or whatever. And the next thing we do, we like, let me open my email because maybe there's something in my email that will distract me and I can start working on, instead of doing those tactical things strategic things that are gonna help me move forward on my goals. So discipline to implement is basically saying, okay, after the 10 o'clock meeting is done, what am I gonna work on next, and stick to that. That's on a piece of paper. If it's in a calendar, it doesn't really matter, but make sure that that is the next thing you work on versus letting other people's priorities or requests overtake it, because you probably all found days where you just been stuck in answering email all day long and everybody else's work got done except yours, right? So that's the key thing about planning your day. And then of course, task management. This is just a shot of a Trello I had. But something similar to this, right? What are the different tasks that we need to break down within these different projects? This is a few years old, but just something that I have added to kind of keep track of them, so I don't have endless to-do lists on different pieces of paper. I'm sure you guys all, into technology. I'm sure most of you guys are into technology fields. You probably use something like this, but sometimes it's just an eye-opening thing to have a tool like this, even for our own projects for ourselves there. So that is, and the last this is my last slide, is we have a few minutes left here. So if anybody is interested in learning more about high performance coaching or want to connect, you can scan this QR code, or you can send me an email or text me, whatever you want to do. I'd love to jump on calls with people and just connect, right? I don't know anything about most of you guys, so it'd be lovely. It'd be great to connect with people and hear more about that. So I'll leave that up for a minute. Since we have a little bit of time left, I'm curious. I'm sorry,
Jens, let me say too that not only the people that are on this call currently, but of course we'll put this whole video in our Speakers Hall of Fame. We'll syndicate it out to YouTube and to Rumble. And if you're listening to it on one of those platforms, feel free to get that QR code as well.
Yeah. So since this, you know, we have a little bit of time here, I'm curious, what are some of the ways that people on this call have found the best way of actually doing your planning, doing your daily, weekly, monthly scheduling?
I can go for that one. I use a piece of software called Todoist, Todoist.com. I mean, it's just a task list manager. The nice thing about it, though, is that it integrates with my Google Calendar. So when I put in my task, you know, do this task by tomorrow at 3 p.m., it'll actually, you know, put a task on my calendar for tomorrow at 3 p.m. And then I can throw a whole bunch of tasks into it, and then I go over to my Google Calendar and I say, oh, okay, this task needs to be up here, and then I can move them around time-wise, and that gets reflected back onto the task list. And I usually spend, you know, 10 minutes in the morning, something like that, kind of brainstorming what do I need to do this week and then today. And then once a quarter, I set up like quarterly plans. That's kind of what I do. I find that on some days I'm better at getting through it than others. A lot of it kind of depends. Unfortunately, sometimes if I'm tired or you know, or emotional or drained or something, it's not as effective. But at least putting things down really helps me see what I need to do.
Love that. And I'll add a couple of things, you know, setting aside maybe an hour on Sunday afternoon or Monday morning to plan that week out, right? And think about how you want to feel on Friday. You know, how do you want to feel on Friday? And by that I mean, what are some of the key things that you want to accomplish this week to feel like you won this week? Think about that. You can then break it into, and you can then go further into the monthly and quarterly. Sorry, Daniel.
I often usually Monday morning, I'll stop and take a look back at the previous week too and say, like, did I actually accomplish my goals, and how was I effective? How was I not? How could I do it better? And then I'll do that first and then plan the next week.
Aram, I think you unmuted yourself. Good to see you.
Yeah,
What do you want to
good
share?
to see you too. Well, the only thing I was going to say is these are all, you know, thank you for doing this. These are all really good thoughts and ideas and concepts. The thing that helps me a lot is that I've got a business partner, at least in my you know, real estate investing life. And we actually, as we were very deliberate about picking one another before we got into this together, and we did a lot of whole soul searching and stuff together about what makes sense. But what I like about it in the end is it's an accountability partner as much as anything else, right? And so what I will say to anybody, it helped me immensely. And so my advice to anybody that is thinking of, I know we're kind of all, you know, many of us are in the real estate realm or the investing realm, is that it can be a pretty lonely space, right? Outside of calls like this, a lot of times you're just sort of you and a laptop and a cup of coffee. And so I found that having a partner that you know, sees blind spots that I have, I see blind spots he has, you know, we challenge each other's thinking. But then, you know, when we have those checkpoints, our internal kind of meetings, those lists that we make for ourselves, well, I'm accountable because I'm letting him down too. So there's that added pressure, and there's something about that, right, that keeps us honest. So I think that's the thing. Whether you have a business partner or at least an accountability partner, you can have somebody that can be a helpful way to ensure success.
Yeah. And I'll call you out, Bill. I mean, when we used to, Bill is a former coaching client of mine, right? And every time we had our meeting, it was like, all right, Bill, what are you going to achieve? What are your goals for before I see you again in a week or two, right? And I think, you know, having somebody like that in your corner too could be very helpful to make sure you accomplish your tasks there. So love that.
I still need that.
Well, give me
My
a
wife
call,
is
my
my
friend.
business partner, and that's a challenging thing. So
Yeah.
And I want to just maybe leave you with one other thought there. For those of you who have read Atomic Habits, he talks about the idea of action versus motion. And that's something I see a lot with people that are, you know, they want to start a business, they spend all this time in motion. So they're learning new things, they are building their website, they're designing their logo, they're building their ebook, whatever it may be. They spend all this time in motion because it feels like they're doing something, but in the end, it does not move you towards your goals until you take action, right? Until you write an offer, until you go and do some due diligence, until you call up investors, until you actually take something that's going to create results in the real world. We have to be cautious or have a level of awareness around action versus motion. So if we spend all the time in action, nothing really happens. So just pay attention to that as well. So we've got a couple more minutes left. Anybody else have any thoughts, feedback, or ideas they want to share?
Can I share a quick quote?
Of course.
So this is a quote. I actually pinned it on my wall when I was at Intel. So it's been on my wall for, a good 10 or 12 years, but it's from Johann Wolfgang Goethe. And he said that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. Whatever you think you can do or believe you can do, begin it. Action has magic, power, and grace. And that's a quote that it's been important to me.
Awesome. Well, that's about all I had. So hopefully I added some value to you. If anybody want to reach out, I'm happy to talk to anybody. And I think Daniel, you can wrap it up if there's anything else you want to add. If not, we'll guess move on.
Basically, thank you very much, Jens, for being here. Could everybody take themselves off mute and thank Jens for being here?
Thanks, Jens.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jens. My
Thank you.
Nielsen relatives say hello from Denmark, by the way.
Well, awesome. Glenn, I'm traveling I'm not going to Denmark. I'm going to Amsterdam on next Friday to visit my sister. Going to meet them there. So that'll be fun.
Oh, nice. Have a safe trip.
Thank you.
And
See you, everybody.
have a safe 4th of July weekend too. See you next
Bye.
week.
Thanks.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.